But just playing against guys that you either was your teammate in high school or y'all supposed to go to the same college together, and just the same rivalry that you have in high school against them. Or I would say also if you didn't get the scholarship from that school, so that's even more personal edge. And I just looked at it like you never beat me. So nobody from Clemson can ever say they beat us from during my time.
Welcome onto the sideline, everybody. Matt Dowell and Jared Parker bringing you a supersized Thanksgiving holiday episode, and we are going to be all over the place in this episode. We're starting here at Williams-Brice Stadium to talk South Carolina football. Then we're going to take it to Clemson, where Claire is going to have the Clemson perspective of this weekend's rivalry game. And then we're going to have an interview with Alshon Jeffery, the Gamecock football legend who was in town for some charity work. We're going to pick his brain about this rivalry game and get caught up on what he's been up to recently. And then we're going to end the episode at Colonial Life Arena, where the women's basketball team is getting ready for an epic week in Las Vegas, where they're going to take on some big time programs and some big time matchups. But Jared, how's it going, man? We're here after the Coastal Carolina game where South Carolina won 51-7, ending a 5-game losing streak, their first win in a couple months. Gamecocks feeling good today.
Yeah, I mean, everything seemed right tonight. I mean, the weather is great. Yeah. We're out here. We're in short sleeves. It feels great. The game for the Gamecocks fans, I know it wasn't a packed stadium like the last couple of weeks where they've had home games, but the environment was great. The fans were cheering all day. They got the wave going. If you get a wave going during a football game, that's usually a pretty good sign that your team is doing what you want them to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're South Carolina, this is a win you wanted to get in dominant fashion, and that's what they did. And I have to say, Jared, the offense has looked considerably different with Mike Furrey as the play caller. I know the Texas A&M game ended in disaster, but between that first half and what we saw today, it looks like a completely different team.
Yeah, over 500 yards of offense. I mean, you put up 51 points. This is the best we've seen the offense since Dowell left.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you think of Mike Furrey, obviously I think he will be in the mix for the next offensive coordinator position. Yes. I don't know if he will get it, obviously, but we'll see what Shane decides to do from what he's seen from Mike Furrey. A couple of injury concerns from this game. Nick Harbor and Dylan Stewart didn't play in this game against the Chanticleers, but I think a lot of that seems to be precautionary to get them ready for the Clemson game that South Carolina obviously is going to want to win. So, Jared, I don't think there's any concern there, but a fun storyline out of this game is the Sellers brothers. Obviously, Lenoris is the star quarterback, but Jaden, a freshman wide receiver, starting this game off with a bang, a 75-yard touchdown from his brother. There's a brother-to-brother connection. We got to speak with them in the press room afterwards, and it was really fun to see their brotherly dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. We both have brothers, so I think, and for anyone with siblings, I think they can just kind of see how cool it is that Big Bro is getting to throw little bro touchdowns like that. And I think that was the first time we've done press with both of them. Just seeing that both on and off the field, they have a great dynamic going in both of those sections.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of storylines going into this last week. The first is, this is the first time after the game we've heard Lenoris talk about his future, on whether he's going to go pro, or leave, whatever the decision is. It was the first time he was asked about a decision, and also he previewed the Clemson game where he obviously had a legendary performance at Clemson last year in South Carolina's win. And Jaden Sellers talking to us about what he took away from watching Lenoris beat Clemson a year ago. So here is the Sellers brothers. We'll start with Lenoris and end with Jaden.
Lenoris, there's a lot of interest in you and around you. Do you have a timeline yet for deciding what your future is going to be?
Just focused on the season right now. Like I said, when time comes, I'll make a decision. Yeah, it'd mean a lot. Obviously, it's an in-state rival game. We beat them last year, and the fashion we beat them last year. Just obviously want to do that again. So.
Yeah, we was actually front row, but we was away from the touchdown that he scored in. So watching him score that last touchdown, basically winning the game for him, was like, it was a moment like, oh my goodness. That's really all I could say. It was just the oh my goodness moment. Uh-huh. But like, that's just like made me plan for what we could do, next year together.
Okay, let's get into the South Carolina-Clemson matchup. Of course, this is a rivalry that goes back to the 1800s, one of the oldest rivalries in all of college football. This will be my 9th rivalry game, Jared, but obviously, there wasn't the game during the COVID year. But this one is interesting to me because neither team has looked that great this season. Both teams have struggled. They've had disappointing seasons. But I think Saturday's game is a toss-up because the fun part of it, so the non-fun part is that neither team has played that well this season. The fun part, though, is that I genuinely don't know what's going to happen on Saturday between the Gamecocks and the Tigers. And I think, when you talk about the in-state rivalry, that makes Saturdays fun.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of chatter around that. People kind of have a foregone conclusion that Clemson is a better team. And I don't think they're wrong. I do think Clemson has been a better team. And this is not just me, trying to please the audience of Gamecock fans, but I think this game is a lot closer than I've seen some people make it out to be. South Carolina, as much as we know the fans hate hearing it, they have kept it close with teams like Alabama, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. And I think you have this game at Williams-Brice Stadium that against a team that really isn't playing for anything but to ruin Clemson's day. I think that can create a really dangerous team.
It will be really fun. Clemson beating Furman, so they are going to a bowl game no matter what happens in this game. But they struggled against Furman, and they eked out that win against Louisville, so they haven't played amazing the past couple of weeks. And when you think about South Carolina, Jared, it's a very different dynamic with this offense. I know the A&M game ended in disaster, but they have looked really good under Mike Furry. So I think with this offense, that brings a dynamic of even more unpredictability of okay, this isn't the South Carolina team that played for the first, 9 games or whatever it was under Shula. It's been much more exciting, in these last 2 games. But interesting when we look at the series history between these two programs, Jared, Clemson leads all time 73-44-4. But what's interesting about this Shane Beamer era is that South Carolina has won 2 of the last 3 games against Clemson, but both of those games at Clemson. And South Carolina has not actually beaten Clemson here at Williams-Brice Stadium since 2013. It's been 12 years, and that was a top 10 battle when South Carolina was number 10 and Clemson was number 6. South Carolina won that game 31-17. But Jared, it's interesting that the 2 most recent wins for South Carolina were up at Death Valley. So it's been a minute. It's been over a decade since Gamecock fans have gotten to celebrate a rivalry win here at Williams-Brice Stadium. Will this be the year that happens?
Oh, that's a hard question, Matt. That's a hard question. I do think Clemson is a better team, but I think the Gamecock team that's playing next week is not the same team that has lost to Alabama, Oklahoma, to Vanderbilt, to Missouri. I think the Gamecock team that we've seen these past 2 weeks, that's who we're going to see. And you mentioned that. It's been a long time since they beat Clemson in Williams-Brice Stadium, which is almost kind of impressive that they went to Clemson and won twice and haven't done it here. But, man, that's a tough one. I think South Carolina will get it done, though. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be a close, ugly game, but I think South Carolina can do it at home.
I'm going to give you my prediction in a minute. I don't know yet. It really is a 50-50 toss-up to me because I really genuinely do not know. But what do you think, before we hear from Shane Beamer about this win over Coastal Carolina and getting ready for Clemson, what do you think South Carolina has to do if they do want to win?
I mean, I think the way they started against Texas A&M, the way they started today, they have to start strong. We hear about the finishing. You don't really get to the finishing point if you don't have a great start. So I think this is a team, they've struggled to finish, yes, but their one strength has been that they start strong. And I think that's the first step to winning. Start strong against Clemson.
Here is what Shane Beamer had to say after beating Coastal Carolina. A very much needed win that gets them confident ahead of the Clemson game here at Williams-Brice Stadium.
This is college football, and especially the emotions of last week, the disappointment of last week, responding, and and people wondering how South Carolina's going to respond and how are they going to be motivated and how do they come back from last week. Well, we made a pretty strong statement tonight about what this place is about and the culture in this program, as I knew that we would. Again, proud of our guys. Happy to get a win. It's been a minute, and we certainly are going to enjoy the heck out of this one. And then we know what's coming next Saturday at noon, and will be an awesome environment. And got a big challenge against those guys, but we'll worry about them tomorrow. and celebrate and really, really enjoy this one because our kids, our players, they deserve it. And our fans that were in there in that stadium tonight, they deserve it.
Well, that's the Gamecock perspective on the South Carolina-Clemson matchup. But, because it is an in-state rivalry game and the most talked about game every single season, especially after Thanksgiving, we're going to bring in the third member of our sports team, and that is Claire Foley. She's been covering Clemson every single Saturday this season, and we are going to toss it over to her up at Death Valley as Claire has the Clemson side of Saturday's rivalry game against South Carolina. Hey, Claire.
All right, guys, well, South Carolina isn't the only team that's coming off of a big win heading into rivalry week. Clemson also getting a big win tonight over Furman, 45-10. I'm joined now by Grayson Mann from TigerNet. He's going to help break down the Clemson side of this matchup for us. So, Grayson, coming into this year, big expectations for both teams, and it kind of seemed like they were both falling short of those expectations. At one point, both of these teams were 3-4, and it seems like Clemson went in a completely different direction than South Carolina did. What do you assess is the biggest difference you've seen in the way these two teams have gone?
Yeah, I mean, after that Duke game, it was a somber moment, really. You saw players crying. It felt like that was the game that was either going to define a stretch down the rest of the season or one where a lot of losses would start to pile up. And Clemson's gone in another direction, as you said. And they're playing a lot more complimentary football. It sounds like low-hanging fruit, but for a team that has not really done the simple stuff correctly all year, to see a game against Louisville where you score off of turnovers, or tonight against Furman, just handling your business, where in September, we watched a rain delay against a Troy team that was the get-right game, them kind of fall short of those expectations. So I think Clemson's been doing the little things better in a game where they've lost that Louisville game multiple times over the last several years. They won that one. And so to see kind of South Carolina on the other end fall short in these really close losses, that's sort of been the defining difference for me.
And it's been a season for Clemson where at times the offense has been struggling and the defense was doing well. And then they kind of switched places. The defense started to struggle as the offense got better. But now in the past couple games when you've seen, like you said, them playing complementary football, how much of an asset is that to them be playing their best football right now?
Yeah, it's important because you got an absolute monster at quarterback in South Carolina with Lenore Sellers, who took Clemson to the woodshed really in that fourth quarter that should have potentially taken Clemson out of the playoff discussion last year. So to have this defense playing better at the right time, being a little bit more sound, where you've seen a lot of schools like SMU, Duke, take advantage of some whiffs in the secondary. You're going to have a talented quarterback back there who's a gamer and has beat you before. Playing key and playing sound right now has got to be a benefit for Tom Allen.
And something that Coach Sweeney has talked about really every year is being able to finish a game playing in the fourth quarter. And especially the last 2 weeks for Clemson, you've seen them really finish a game. I mean, even tonight, it was kind of over by the second quarter, but they still finished it even with all the backups out on the field versus South Carolina has really struggled to play complete 4 quarters. How much confidence does that give you in Clemson specifically heading into this matchup?
Hey, you've seen South Carolina take on some Goliaths in the SEC against Alabama, Texas A&M, and really collapse down the stretch. And so obviously the competition, you may not want to compare it in terms of ACC, SEC, but Clemson is finishing those games. The Florida State, you kind of stave off a little bit of a Tommy Castellano squad that was trying to find some momentum, and then a Louisville squad that's trying to reclaim some momentum in the ACC championship race. So they are finishing games. Regardless of how they get there, they have that proof of concept to be able to go forward and do it. So against South Carolina, I expect it to be a four-quarter brawl. Carolina's playing for bragging rights. Clemson's playing for some momentum heading into bowl season. So those ingredients, that makes for a pretty stellar rivalry game.
And that being said, something we talk about on this podcast in every preview episode is what's at stake for these two teams. And so for Clemson, they just got the 6th win, so they will be having a bowl appearance this season, but they could make it to a 7 game. What is the difference between a 6-7?
I knew it was coming.
Had to. What's the difference between 6 and 7 wins for this team in terms of what bowl they could be placed at?
Yeah, I mean, besides the meme there, the difference is a bowl placement where you could be potentially going to a Gator Bowl or a Pinstripe Bowl where 6 and 6, it's sort of the bottom of the barrel. And I think Clemson's a big enough brand to where there's going to be some interest from higher level bowls that want to see those Clemson fans travel. It'll make them some money. It'll be some revenue. But I think also the difference is the season, the way it's gone, is there's a difference between 6 and 6 and the ending of it being a loss to your rival and 7-5 and it being 4 straight and a win over South Carolina, it cures a lot of the sins of the season for sure.
And it being a 6-win team versus a 4-win team, especially knowing these two teams in South Carolina and Clemson, there's a lot less parity there than you might expect from on paper. So for Clemson, what do they need to do in specifically looking at the threats that South Carolina has? If we take for the offense, for example, what does Clemson's defense have to do to stop a guy like Nick Harbor, and especially when Clemson's secondary has struggled at times this year?
Yeah, they really have, and I think sometimes it's going to be a lot of deep coverage for a guy that's got track speed. You're going to see him run a 40-yard dash, and it might surprise some commentators on Combine in the spring, but it's a guy that you're going to have to account for him on every play. It's not something that, yeah, it's 3rd and 2, we can take the down off. He can still go 75 yards to the house and really make you pay for a lack of complacency on that end. So I think for Clemson, not only do you have to deal with Sellers' scrambling ability, you got to know that he can cork it down the field to a guy that's capable of burning everybody in the country. So there are some weapons here, and it provides that balance of Tom Allen's going to be having some long nights trying to prepare for this defense or offense.
And on the opposite side, anybody who's had to do a scouting report on South Carolina's defense has seen Dylan Stewart. What kind of threat does he pose to Clemson's offense?
Yeah, for a Clemson offensive line that's maligned and it's without some starters, certainly it's going to be a weapon that gave him some trouble last year, especially as a freshman coming to arrive on the scene. He's only gotten better, and it's been a lone bright spot for South Carolina in a season where there hasn't been much to cheer for, but when Five's on the field, you know something good's about to happen. So it's going to be up to Tristan Lee, Blake Miller. I would expect them to stunt inside. Just some new starters to Harris Sewell and Colin Sadler. He's going to be just about everywhere. Clemson's got to get the ball out quick and really find a way to take 5 out of this game.
All right, Grayson, we really appreciate your time. Before we let you go, do you have a score prediction for Saturday?
Oh, man, I feel like it's changed every week this season. It's been South Carolina, then Clemson, and South Carolina, then Clemson. But I'm going to take the team that's riding high right now in Clemson. And historically, you take the away team as of late. Clemson and South Carolina have traded wins and losses, but they've all been on the road. So I'm going to take the Road Warriors, and I'm going to take precedent this decade. So give me the Tigers 27-23.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Grayson. He's Grayson Mann from TigerNet. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Claire. Yeah, Clemson has really had to fight and claw and compete so hard this season to get these 6 wins, but they are bowl eligible. They're trying to get that 7th win to maybe get a better bowl game. So there is still something on the line for them. And of course, it all comes down to bragging rights when it comes to South Carolina Clemson. Jared, I know you were kind of debating earlier on in the show. You're leaning South Carolina. Has it changed in the last 5 minutes? What do you think? You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
I genuinely, everyone, and I want to know what everyone is thinking, logically or not logically. I don't know wherever you're coming from in this matchup, because I genuinely do not know which way it's going to go. The offense that South Carolina has shown the past 2 weeks makes this a harder guess. I think 2 weeks ago I would have said Clemson is going to win this game. Now, South Carolina's offense makes me think, okay, this might be a lot more competitive or closer than I was expecting a few weeks ago. And there's something in me, Jared. I don't know what it is. And I really am not just saying this because this is a Gamecock podcast. There's something in me that tells me South Carolina is going to win on Saturday. I don't know if it's the long streak of not having won here in 12 years. I don't know what it is. But something tells me that South Carolina is going to get it done and end on a high. It might be an ugly game. It might be not pretty. I don't know what the quality is going to be. I don't know what to expect from that. But I'm going to go South Carolina. There's just something in me that says the Gamecocks are going to win.
Yeah, I'm sticking with South Carolina for now. My biggest concern is that what we have seen with Clemson and we haven't seen with South Carolina is the ability to win close games. South Carolina has not won a close game yet, and Clemson has. And I think we both agree this is going to be a close game. But that's what makes me skittish about South Carolina. However, it's when you look at the offense the past 2 weeks, they've really been flowing. Lenora Sellers has looked like the star that he is at times. He's running well, and everyone knows about the big run last year. It's hard for me to pick against South Carolina with the way they've looked the last 2 weeks. Call it recency bias. Maybe, come a week later, we'll be wrong and eating our words, but I think the Gamecocks get it done. I do.
Both teams just flat out this season, it's been sloppy, it's been ugly, it's been whatever you want to call it for both teams. And I won't be surprised if the game reflects that, especially with the added emotions, the crowd, everything. So, again, the quality, I don't know what to expect. But I do think both teams, because the seasons have not been great for both, are going to come and want to win this even more than they already do. I think both teams want to end the regular season on some kind of high, and I think that makes for a really fun dynamic on Saturday. It's a noon kickoff between South Carolina and Clemson, the game on SEC Network, which kind of reflection of the seasons. It was originally supposed to be on a national broadcast, but it's not doing that anymore. But either way, I think everyone in the state of South Carolina will be watching this game. We're going to take a quick ad break. Coming up next on South Carolina Sideline, I sat down with Alshon Jeffery, Gamecock football legend and, of course, Super Bowl champion. He has so many accolades, one of the greatest to ever come out of this program. He joined me in our podcast studio to talk some charities he's doing here in town, the South Carolina-Clemson matchup, and his Thanksgiving favorites. Alshon Jeffery coming up right after this. Okay, continuing our holiday podcast episode as we preview South Carolina Clemson, and I have a very, very special guest here in the studio, a Gamecock football legend, an icon, just whatever you want to call him. He is at the top of the list when it comes to Gamecock football greats. Alshon Jeffery in the house. Alshon, thanks for joining me, man. I know when you come to Columbia, everybody wants something from you, and you're so busy. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on our podcast and talk a little football with us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You know, it's always home. It's always welcome to coming back here. And football, definitely I would love to talking ball. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Before we start talking South Carolina football, everything, I know you're in town doing a lot of charity events, giving back to the community ahead of the holiday season. So what are some of the things you've been up to while you're in Columbia?
I would say last night we had an event. I want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor, Hibbett's, the whole Hibbett's team, Nike, Canes. Like we hosted my high school football teams, the seniors, just a shopping spree, just letting them also just talking to them a little bit, getting to know those guys because I was once them, just like because I'm sure they look at me as the hero, but also it's something I can learn from them, just watching, putting a smile on their face and how happy they was. I feel like that's what made me, just being from South Carolina. Like I was once in their shoes, so it's the least I could do.
Calhoun County, shout out to the Saints. I know that the reaction from them last night was awesome. It was so cool to see their reaction, and I know that is something they're never gonna forget. When you come back to Columbia, do you have spots in town that you gotta hit up when you're here? I know it's a quick trip, but do you have places you gotta go when you return home?
Bernie's Fried Chicken.
Okay.
Shout out to Bernie's. I love Bernie's Fried Chicken. Obviously, my mama home cooking. I stop by Halls every once in a while. And Back Street. I like Back Street as well. That's one of my favorite places.
Good choices. I know when we talk about Calhoun County, just to kind of talk about your Gamecock career as we kind of look ahead to South Carolina Clemson. Obviously, you went to Calhoun County. You're a South Carolina guy. Was playing for the Gamecocks always your dream? What was your childhood dream when it came to football?
I was a USC Southern Cal fan. I was a big fan of that era. Before Reggie Bush, it was like Carson Palmer in the beginning. So I was a big fan of them. But always South Carolina. I always watch Anthony Wright, Sidney Rice. Even I hear stories all the time about Sterling. I never got to see him play, but I watch his film these days. I watch his film. George Rogers. I knew all about the history and stuff like that. Coach Brad Scott at the time. I know he's with Clemson, so I know all about the history and stuff like that.
So during your recruiting process, what was that like for you? What was it when it came to the Gamecocks? What sold you on South Carolina?
Coach Shane Beamer. I feel like
really
my hat's off to him. Like he definitely he never promised me anything, but he always kept it real with me, and always just our conversation just seemed so genuine, always pure, and it's still like that today. Like the love, him and his family. Even though he was a younger Coach Beamer at the time, but I feel like without Coach Beamer, I don't think I would never went to South Carolina.
Really? So we got to give a shout out to Shane, because obviously he's known for his recruiting prowess. So when you look at Shane now, you knew him back then during the recruiting process, to see him leading the team now as the head coach, what's that like for you?
It's special just to see it all come full circle. Like I said, during his recruiting, he was just like always told me, he's like, you can go to South Carolina and be legendary and be known forever because you're from South Carolina, or you can go to USC and just be the next name at going to a big university. So I took that in stride, and I also understood what he was saying. I feel like it's special. There's no place like South Carolina, just being from South Carolina, and the love and the fan base and the passion that we have, and we travel, like it's special.
And I think obviously, you were that became true because you were part of the greatest era of Gamecock football, a team that just accomplished so much and was so stacked. So when we talk about the rivalry game, South Carolina and Clemson, what was it like to play in this rivalry game? Because we get to watch it, we kind of get to be in the atmosphere and everything, so we feel it and we get to see it. But to play in it has to be a different ball game. What's it like to play in this South Carolina Clemson game?
I feel like it's up there, one of the top rivalries. But just playing against guys that you either was your teammate in high school or y'all supposed to go to the same college together, and just the same rivalry that you have in high school against them. Or I would say also if you didn't get the scholarship from that school, so that's even more personal edge. And I just looked at it like, you never beat me. So nobody from Clemson can ever say they beat us from during my time. So.
Yeah, you got bragging rights for that era of this rivalry. Did it feel different when you were going into the Clemson game? Could you feel the intensity going up?
I feel like it was well talked about, but just knowing in general, just growing up South Carolina, Clemson, which I was always a South Carolina fan, so it was always one of those things I can't wait to be a part of that. Like, so look forward to it. And I feel like that game is definitely we circle on our calendar. Like, that's a must, that we must beat Clemson, and it's something that we take pride in, that we circle on our calendar in the off season. That
it's a game that people talk about literally year round. I mean, the conversation around this rivalry never stops. When you think of South Carolina versus Clemson, what is the moment that you think of? Is there a moment that really stands out for you when you think of this matchup?
I would say, obviously, it's a lot of great games that we've had, whether it was South Carolina when Woodrow Dancer played against us, because he's from my area, so hats off to Woodrow Dancer. I got to show love. I respect. He's one of the greatest players I ever seen. But just everything, that just knowing like how households is divided and breaking up, like it breaks up families during certain times. Like certain time of the year that family members stop talking to each other. So it's one of those things that I definitely look forward to, and I feel like it's always exciting.
And it's always Thanksgiving week, so people go from having their Thanksgiving feast, and then it becomes war after that. Obviously, right now this is kind of an interesting year for the rivalry because both teams have had rough years. South Carolina struggling, Clemson has not had a great year either. But when we look at the South Carolina side of things, what advice would you give the players right now who are going through a tough moment in a tough season?
I feel like this is adversity that it's okay. Like just finish the year out strong. Just stay locked in. Like just keep building momentum, because you got next year to look forward to, and just what we can control is right now. Forget about the record. What can we do these last 2 games to get us going into the off season, and just keep building from there? Like, just take it one game at a time and finish strong. And hey, that's how I look for it, and that's how I will be in the locker room, because there's no better time just to lean on your brother. The brotherhood, y'all come together.
I know, too, college football and college athletics has changed so much in the past 5 to 10 years, and everyone wants to win, and they want to win now. But when things aren't going your way and you are struggling, are there lessons you can learn as an athlete during those times, during those tough periods?
As they say, it goes, tough times don't last long.
Yeah.
So you gotta go through it before you can win. You gotta have these type of steps. This was molds you, and it also tells you more about your teammates and more about yourself as well. Like, you gotta dig deep and just lock in and focus, and just take it one day at a time. It's really just locking and focus and details. And okay, it's not bad. Like, it's not the first or the last time this happened, but what can we do to change this, or how can we control this, and how can we grow from this situation?
Yeah, and you got to think that right now, the current players, that this is a big period for them, and growing as athletes, as people, as all of that. Obviously, we know how stacked the South Carolina teams that you were on were. When you look at the rosters of that period, it's crazy. I mean, it's just NFL, superstar. But for you, at what point in your college career did you think, okay, I have NFL level talent, I have what it takes to get to the next level and be successful there?
I would say that I never had the goals or the dreams. I was just happy to be at South Carolina and just enjoy college, but also just play football. So while I'm at it, I'm going to work hard and take it very seriously. My competitive nature kicked in. Probably, I would say, more towards the sophomore year. I would say that, I really got a chance to go to the NFL. But at the same time, I always stay grounded, just taking care of the little things, just take it one day at a time, and just focus and lock in. And if I'm great at it, just let my talent show. So.
And I know, obviously, you are a Super Bowl champion. You are, when I think of, like, in the grand scheme of things, the list of players who have scored touchdowns in Super Bowl games, that list is small. You were on that list. As a person who is never going to score a touchdown in a Super Bowl game, can you tell me what emotions go through your body, your mind, when that moment's happening? Because that is a lifetime's worth of work happening to you, and it's a reality. So what are the emotions you feel when you're living that in real time?
In real time, I just looked at it. It's another game. It's just another game. Like, don't let the moment get too big for you. Just stay grounded. We was preaching that all week, and just look at it just one game at a time. When the clock hits 0, then we do all the celebrations and all that. But I just look at it as one game at a time, and I was just grateful and thankful to God that I was able to score the first touchdown and be one of those on the short list of scoring a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
It's so cool. It's so cool. Obviously, this is our Thanksgiving episode. So before you go, because I know you're a busy guy, we got to talk some Thanksgiving Day must-have. So for you, Alshon Jeffery, on Thanksgiving Day, what has to happen for you? What's the food you got to have? What are the things you got to do on Thanksgiving Day? What are your Thanksgiving Day must-haves?
I would say some stuffing. That's must-have. That's what I look forward to.
That's number one on the list?
Number one. And watching a little bit of football.
Yeah.
Like watching some good games. I look forward to that. But and just overall, just spending time with family, your loved ones, that's all that matters, those moments. And just everybody just telling each other how grateful and thankful they are, just appreciating stuff like that. So I look forward to that.
Alshon, I want to thank you so much for coming in the studio. Before I let you go, I know that you are so busy when you come to Columbia. Is there anything else you want to add about your time here, the Gamecocks? I'll let you close this out.
I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. But this morning we did a food drive with Harvest Hope. We fed over 250 families.
Wow.
They team did amazing of putting everything together, just seeing people smile and something to look forward to, having a great Thanksgiving. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I feel like us in general, just being around each other, just being blessed to be in each other's presence. Like I feel like football, I'm blessed with the opportunity. I'm grateful for it. But I just more thankful for just us as people in general, just being someone that we all in this together, locking in, and just it's more bigger about life, just being inspirations to one another, and just because it's the climate that we're going through in life and things it's a little tough. We all can attest to it, no matter what's going on. But we can be there for each other and just try to be a positive outlet for each other. So like I said, it's a huge shout out to all the volunteers, all the sponsors. That it was a great event. And South Carolina football, let's get it together. I'm looking forward to 2026 season. All Gamecock sports, actually, let me say that. This year, if our season hasn't started, men and women, I'm looking forward to watching you guys in 2026. Let's do it. Let's take over the SEC.
Let's go. Community is so important. And Alshon, I know so many people, who have done what you've done, they don't give back to the community, and you have made that a priority. So thank you for coming back to Columbia regularly and giving back to community. I know it means a lot to everybody involved. So thanks, man. And we're all better together than we are apart. And I think that's kind of the message that you're sending out. So thank you, Alshon. Thank you for coming in the studio, man. I tell everyone it's such an honor when people say yes to coming on the pod and talking to me. So thanks for talking the rivalry, your career, and Thanksgiving, because we all love Thanksgiving, right?
We thankful for them. We all thankful for each other. What's one of your favorite dishes, though?
Ooh, good question. I think I'm more of a ham guy than I am a turkey guy. And I also love mac and cheese, but it's got to be like good mac and cheese. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be that the really cheesy mac and cheese. I need that on my plate. And then I'm also a dessert guy. So I got to see what desserts we're having and where I got to make my choice. Anything peanut butter chocolate, that's coming on my plate. So yeah, I love Thanksgiving, and obviously having the rivalry game afterwards always makes it special. He's Alshon Jeffery, the Gamecock football legend, Super Bowl champion. Alshon, thanks so much for joining our show, man. Thank you
for having me. Everyone have a happy Thanksgiving, safe travels, love.
I want to thank Alshon Jeffery for joining our podcast as our mega Thanksgiving episode continues. We were at Williams-Brice Stadium, and then we were at Memorial Stadium. and then we were in our podcast studio, and now we are wrapping up the show. Jared and I are here at Colonial Life Arena, where the South Carolina women's basketball team put a beatdown on Queens in this one. Jared, it was not close. One-way traffic for South Carolina, as you would expect. All 10 Gamecocks that were here scored, and it was a really, really good day for South Carolina as they get ready for a big week. We'll preview their tournament in Vegas in just a couple of minutes, but first let's talk about what we saw here today at the CLA. South Carolina scoring a lot, but of course the return of Maddie McDaniel from her suspension. She missed a few games with South Carolina, also dealing with a knee injury. So all of those things together, Jared, it was really, really good to see her back with the Gamecocks today.
Yeah, I was interested to see how she would look, both missing time from suspension, and she came out with the knee brace. So I was wondering, even though she was here, I'm like, will we really see much of her anyway? We got to see a lot of her, and she looked just as quick as she usually does, just as shifty and evasive from defenders, and she was able to score later in the game. She actually scored the point that helped them crack 100. But yeah, good to see her back. I think, as you've mentioned, it was something they've needed coming off the bench from the point guard position.
Absolutely, and I think that was my biggest takeaways. I felt like immediately I saw the impact of her returning, and it might not sound like a lot, but going from a 9-person roster to a 10-person roster is a huge difference. And when you look at the guards' minutes in these last few games, they've been playing heavy minutes. So to have another point guard back in the rotation that can keep that second unit going, and just to ease off some of the minutes of the other guards, I felt like we saw immediately just how important Maddie is to this roster. But after the game today, we did get to speak to Dawn Staley about Maddie's return, and here's what she had to say about why Maddie returned to the team and also how good it is to have her back.
Here's the thing. Maddie's a great young lady. That's one. She is, of great character. But, some of the choices that you make have consequences. It was more on Maddie and how she's communicating, with me and our staff, and communicating with her teammates. Her teammates are the people that are the ones that was her voice. And they had a more powerful voice when it comes to that. Obviously, they like Maddie. They like all their teammates. They want our entire team together, and they voice that.
This was a game for South Carolina in which all 10 Gamecocks scored the entire starting lineup in double figure scoring. Joyce Edwards continued to put up 20 pieces. Jared, Tanaya Latson shooting well again. She continues to look more and more comfortable with this Gamecock system. But what were some of the other takeaways that you saw from South Carolina today?
Well, I just want to, going back to Maddie, I think one thing that was good to see her back with is, we don't expect her to score a bunch, but the way she hits the passing lanes, the angles she finds, it was really good to see that, not just from her, but from the entire team. They were just moving the ball so well. I feel like today they got so many easy buckets. And in a game like that, you don't want to be having to make tough shots. Those easy buckets, those dump-offs to Joyce or Medina or Adele or Miriam right in the post, those are what you want, and they got a lot of those today.
And that's why I think having her back is she can kind of continue what Raven is doing, because, Tanaya, Tessa, them playing the one is a bit different, whereas Maddie's that more natural point guard. And I think having someone other than Raven to run the show is huge just for Raven, to give her some time to breathe, but also just for the team as a whole. I also think, I think the team chemistry is getting better and better as these games go on, which just 3 weeks in, I think is a great sign for South Carolina. I also think we saw, obviously the competition is not the same as, taking on a Southern California or something, but the bench production was much better today.
Yes.
I felt like we saw much better minutes from the bench, and also just scoring, passing, rebounding, everything from them looked like maybe that second unit is starting to get a lot more comfortable, because when you think about it, they are not the experienced bench that we've seen of the past few years. McKeer and McDowell are freshmen. Adele still trying to get, trying to continue her journey past these knee injuries and get more comfortable just in her body on a basketball court again. Miriam is still kind of getting into this system. So all of the benches, they're a young bench, and I think that we're starting to see them get more comfortable playing more minutes. And I think this week was huge for them to get a lot of really beneficial minutes on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing Don Staley spoke about is just the aggressiveness. We're seeing the bench get in there, and we're seeing them be aggressive. She hit the deck a couple of times on some loose balls. And they're shooting. They're doing everything that a team that plays fast like this current Gamecocks team needs in order for them to continue to play fast and hard on defense.
Our last big storyline from this game before we preview Vegas is Adele Tack, and it is a monumental game for her as she recorded her first career double-double as a Gamecock, 11 points and 10 rebounds. And Jared, the fans, I have said this forever, and I think everyone knows it, they pay attention to the stat sheet like just as much as the coaches do, because everybody in this arena was waiting for Adele to get, she already had 10 rebounds. They wanted her to get that one more bucket. She had 9 points, and then as soon as she got the bucket, the entire place erupted. It just speaks so much to the culture here, but also for someone like Adele, who is so insightful, by the way. She is so good in the press room. I noticed it last year during March when we talked to her, in the locker rooms before and after games, and we got to speak to her today after this game as well. She gives such great answers to questions, and we've been told that she is a very smart basketball player, and Jared, we got to see that afterwards, but this was an impressive day for Adele Tack. I really, really enjoyed watching her play today.
Yeah, it was not just impressive and didn't just enjoy watching her play, but I loved watching the reactions from, like you said, the fans. I mean, I think once she was at maybe 8 points and 9 rebounds, that's when everyone started to be on double-double watch. But her teammates on the bench, Chloe Kitt's getting into it. She's injured. She's not in the game, but she's getting into it. You have Tessa screaming, feed Adele, feed Adele. Watching the whole team cheer on Adele, especially after, like you said, she's been through what she's been through with injuries, trying to get back on the court and have performances like this. It was just amazing to watch someone who's fought to be on the court have her moment like that.
And after Medina Oko, Adele is the tallest player on the team, so she brings in some size off the bench that if she can get going, she's going to add a very big element to this Gamecock roster going forward. But let's hear from Adele Tack. I told you guys how insightful and impressive she was in the press room afterwards. Here's what she had to say about what she sees on the floor and what she wants to continue to add to this Gamecock roster and to her own game.
Yes, it's definitely something I take pride in. I mean, I'm just by nature somebody who talks, and sometimes I might not want to do it, but I also see the difference that it makes. Like when it is quiet, my coaches look to me or my teammates look to me and they ask me like, hey, can you keep us talking? Like, we're better when you talk to us. And I also feel like my ability to talk and process the game and also process it for others helps with the team. Like, sometimes I literally just walk through the offense. I'm not even somebody who has the ball. I'm telling people, where to go, where to screen, what play we should run defensively. Me saying where I'm at and me calling out what defense we're coming in out of a timeout or whatever helps everybody else realize what spot they need to be or. So I'm just glad that, I'm able to do stuff like having the double-double was great, but I take pride in the fact that I'm able to make differences that don't show up on a stat sheet. I'm able to do things that help somebody that doesn't require me to have to score a whole bunch of points, rebound the ball, and stuff like that.
Well, now, Jared, South Carolina gets ready for a massive week. And when we did a preview episode on our podcast a couple of months ago, just kind of going through game by game of the South Carolina schedule, where did we think wins would be? Where did we think losses would be? A lot of people disagreed with us. A lot of people agreed with us on some things, as it goes when you are talking about predictions. But we both agreed that this Thanksgiving week was going to be the week on the schedule where we felt like South Carolina would be tested more than they would be or will be throughout this entire non-conference. Obviously, they passed their first test against Southern California, a 17-point win there. That was great. Now they go back out to Vegas where they're going to take on Duke first as part of this kind of like mini tournament that they've got going on there out in Vegas. Duke not having the season we thought they were going to have. I had them as preseason number 5 on my AP ballot. They're now unranked. They're 3-3. It's the most shocking storyline of this early season so far is just how much Duke is struggling, but still a team that has so much experience on their roster, you still have to take them seriously. They are the reigning ACC tournament champions. They made the Elite Eight, so they're going to be South Carolina's first test on Wednesday. And then on Thanksgiving Day, they're going to take on either UCLA or Texas in what will be either way a top 4 matchup for South Carolina. Obviously, both of those teams made the Final Four last year. They have tons of talent. They're both very, very good. Jared, what do you think? This is going to be a big test for South Carolina, and I'm very, very excited to see how they take on the challenge.
Yeah, I think there's lessons that they can learn from both of those games. Like you said, Duke isn't having the season that they'd hope to be having at this point. But playing Duke is not an easy game.
No.
They make it very ugly, and I think they can make it ugly with anybody. So they struggle to score the ball, and I don't think I'm concerned of an upset, but it's, they make it ugly. It's not an easy win. You're not going to score easy. So I think there's lessons to be learned there, and if we see South Carolina score at will against Duke, I think it'll tell a lot about this team going forward. Obviously, UCLA, Texas, whoever you match, I mean, it's a top 5 matchup. You're guaranteed a top 5 matchup this weekend. So, as far as that goes, I'm excited to see who they get. I think Texas, we know the whole story with Schaefer and Staley. She kind of has his number, but I'd love to see if they could match up against UCLA, because who knows if they'll get the chance at UCLA for the rest of the season. We know they'll play Texas at least once, maybe more.
Yeah.
So I'd really love to see that and see how the bigs match up against Betts.
Agreed. I would like to see either one would be really entertaining. I think, though, just because they're going to play Texas in January, maybe UCLA is a little more like popcorn matchup.
Yeah.
And I also think that just matchup-wise, UCLA kind of has the similar pieces to what South Carolina has, and I think it would be fun to see that go down. But either way, I'm really, really, really interested to see how South Carolina manages this week. And no matter what the results are, I think South Carolina is going to learn a lot about themselves going up against a Blue Devils team that, while they're struggling offensively, is an elite defensive team. I mean, they play such good defense. And then, of course, UCLA and Texas, we all know what they bring to the table. So I think it's going to be a true test for South Carolina. I think we're going to learn a lot about this team. I think they're going to face some adversity somehow, some way this week. No matter, I don't think it's going to be blowout city. If it is, that's also a great thing.
That's a great tell.
But I think you have to go into this week saying these are going to be really, really competitive games. And I'm one that, even if they do suffer a loss this week, I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think losses in November are the end of the world. Obviously, South Carolina is going to want to win these games. But more importantly, these games against top competition in November are about learning about each other, about a team, about, roster, all of that. So I think it's going to be a big week for South Carolina, and I'm really, really excited. Again, Duke is first on Wednesday, and then either UCLA or Texas on Thanksgiving Day. So you guys can watch the game and then go eat Thanksgiving dinner. So we'll see what happens in that one. The timing of those games depends on how that first day on Wednesday goes. So we don't have a set schedule for that just yet. Jared, is there anything else you want to add about Gamecock women's basketball as we look into a huge week for them schedule-wise?
Man, I think the biggest thing I'm just interested in seeing is how the depth is managed this week, because I think this 2-day tournament is the closest we'll get to SEC tournament play, where you're playing back-to-back there. So I'd love to see how their legs hold up over 2 games.
Yeah, especially against Southern Cal. We didn't see a ton of bench play, in that game. So will it be a big starting 5 week? Are we going to see the starting 5 really carry this team? Or now that the bench is starting to get a little bit more comfortable, will we see some big minutes from them in these huge games? Let us know your thoughts and predictions on Gamecock women's basketball this week as they head to Las Vegas. They're going to play at the home of Asia Wilson out there in Las Vegas. And I have a feeling Asia will be present at these games. So we'll see if we see Asia Wilson at these games. But South Carolina taking on Duke, and then either UCLA or Texas will be very, very entertaining and important to this Gamecock season, no matter what happens. He's Jared Parker. I'm Matt Dowell. I want to thank everybody that was part of this episode, because this was a jam-packed Thanksgiving episode. I want to thank, of course, Jared. I want to thank Claire Foley and Grayson Mann, who did our Clemson side of things. I, of course, want to thank Alshon Jeffery for taking time to come talk to us today about South Carolina Clemson, and then everybody here at Colonial Life Arena who makes covering Gamecock women's basketball so much fun, so easy. It's really just such a great culture here for us as media members as well. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope you have a fantastic week wherever you guys are watching or listening to us. If you're taking us in on your drives home to where you're going on this holiday weekend, we thank you. If you're just enjoying us, while you're relaxing, we're taking advantage of these days off. We just thank you guys so much for supporting us, watching, listening as always, and we're just having so much fun doing this podcast, Jared.
It is so much fun.
So much fun. Happy Thanksgiving, man.
Happy Thanksgiving. Great way to spend our Thanksgiving.
I know, and we will be back with our next episode on Sunday morning with the result of South Carolina Clemson football, as the regular season will be over for South Carolina football after that, and it will be either a win or a loss over their in-state rival. He's Jared Parker. I want to thank Claire Foley. I want to thank thank Grayson Mann, Alshon Jeffery for this jam-packed Thanksgiving episode. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time here on South Carolina Sideline.